Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Doing a little 2-for-1 right now for the Oregon State Beavers as they land a commitment from three-star wide receiver from the state of California, Logan Saldate. We're going to talk a little bit of that. We are also going to be doing our summer scouting preview for the Oregon State Beavers as well. Before we get into it again, I just want to say thank you to you guys. The support you guys have shown truly does mean a lot. Over 5,000 subscribers on the channel, whether we're talking high school recruiting, whether we're talking transfer portal, whether we're talking summer scouting. I can't thank you guys enough for checking the fellas out and showing all the support. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Let's start out with a little talk about Logan Saldate and what Oregon State Beavers are doing on the recruiting trail. Jonathan Smith has done a phenomenal job evaluating prospects that are going to fit what he wants to do at Oregon State. And that might not look the same for what the Oregon Ducks are wanting to do or USC is wanting to do. Oregon State plays a little bit of a different brand of football in the Pac-12 than some of those other powerhouse schools. And it's hard to say it's not working after going 10-3 this year, having a win total that's 8.5 this year. And Logan Saldate is a guy that you look at what Oregon State wants to do on the offense side of the ball, just kind of turn on some film of him. Oregon State doesn't really push the ball downfield that much. And I know some fans maybe want to see that happen more, but a lot of their offense is predicated on getting the ball out quick and establishing the run. And Logan Saldate, I think, fits that perfectly. You take a look at what he's done at the high school level, elite working that short intermediate route tree concept, and then very, very good after the catch. He's got burners, a 10-8 200-meter dash, so he has the wheels to take it to the house. But what flashes the most when you watch a guy like Logan Saldate is how he can work underneath and then be very good after the catch. Excellent hands working over the middle of the field, but then great contact balance. Like, he's very hard to bring down, very good short area quick. I mean, that's disgusting. Short area quickness is off the charts, and that's kind of what Oregon State wants to do. You take a look at some of the guys that they have on the offensive side of the football, like Silas Bolden, get the ball to them in space early and often, and then let them go to work. And again, you see the 10-8 200-meter dash time as well. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about this Oregon State Beavers team as a whole, and we're going to pull up their depth chart, and we're going to preview a little bit of what I think this Oregon State team is in 2023. In life, sometimes you just got to plant your flag, and I think I'm planting my flag in the Oregon State Beavers mountain here. This is a team that they do things differently in the Pac-12, and it might not look as flashy or as sexy as teams like Oregon, Washington, USC, who spread you out, put up a lot of points. But Oregon State brings it to other teams in the Pac-12, and that's a reason they went 10-3. You take a look at their end-of-the-year schedule, beating Oregon, blowing out Florida in the bowl game. Not many teams that are hotter heading into 2023 than the Oregon State Beavers. So to kind of kick off this preview and why I think Oregon State might be special in 2023, it's the new quarterback in DJ U. And what Oregon State was able to do on the offensive side of football and in general with just kind of average quarterback play. And I'm not trying to get on Ben Goldbranson or Chance Nolan. Those guys are solid quarterbacks. I don't think they're special quarterbacks. DJ U, although has looked choppy at times at Clemson, is a special talent. And I think there's no better fit for him than heading up to Corvallis and this Oregon State offense for a couple of reasons. One, he's back on the West Coast. I think that's where he's most comfortable with. He obviously played his football at St. John Bosco in California. So he's a West Coast kid, and he's coming kind of out of the spotlight, which is, I think, going to be good for him. He had the weight on his shoulders at Clemson, and quite frankly, that offense was also not doing him any favors. Not a very good offensive line, did not really establish the run very well. They asked DJ U to be special, to be kind of like Trevor Lawrence, if you will, and I think it was too much for him. And even if you go back and look at his film and his numbers from last year, it wasn't horrible. I think the picture's been painted that he's a horrible quarterback. He's not going to be a college football player. 2,500 yards, 62% completion percentage, 22 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. The narrative, I mean, that's better numbers, significantly better numbers than any of the Oregon State quarterbacks in 2022. And again, I'm not trying to throw those guys under the bus. They won 10 games at Oregon State in 2022. I think DJU opens up another dimension for this offense, and it's a perfect fit. This offense is not going to ask him to be Caleb Williams. You're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets. You're going to have a phenomenal run game. DJU, I think, maybe can add some explosiveness in the passing game in terms of putting the ball downfield, pushing the ball downfield. but it's going to be easy. And you look at what a quarterback's best friend is. It's a good run game and it's a good offensive line. And that's exactly what Jonathan Smith has built at Oregon State. And kind of round out this offense, you look at the run game. One of the best running back duos in the Pac-12, and Damian Martinez might be special. Like what you saw him do as a true freshman, as physical and as hard of a runner as he was, as an 18-year-old kid playing for Oregon State was extremely impressive. Deshaun Fenwick is no slouch either. I think Damian Martinez is going to be the bell cow. I think he's going to be that running back one, but this run game is going to be phenomenal, and it's running behind a really, really good offensive line when you take a look at guys like Joshua Gray, who potential first-team All-Pac-12 dude, Talasay Fuga on the right side, also a very, very good. I think Athlon Sports has him as a first-team All-Pac-12 offensive tackle. Offensive line is going to be good. The run game is going to be good. That's the first step for a quarterback to be successful in offense. And you take a look at the pass catchers, and it might be not the flashiest guys like Troy Franklin or Jordan Addison at USC last year. Silas Bolden, Anthony Gould, guys who just get the ball to them in space. They create separation early in their route trees. That's all he can ask for. And DJ U is going to have the opportunity to work that short and intermediate guy, put the ball right on those guys and let them go to work after the catch. And similar to what we talked about with what Logan Saldate brings, that's Silas Bolden, Anthony Gould. That's exactly what they bring to the table too. This offense is going to be extremely good. And what makes them work in the Pac-12 is that other Pac-12 defenses, they don't want to play this Oregon State team because they're physical, kind of like what Utah was in the Pac-12 for a while, and still are to an extent, is they're kind of a Big Ten team in the Pac-12, and those defenses like USC, those defenses like Oregon, they don't want to play those teams that you have to tackle a 220-pound running back like Damian Martinez 25 times a game. They don't want to see the 12 personnel with two tight ends and that power run game. And so it kind of throws a little curveball at a lot of these Pac-12 defenses, and quite frankly, they're just not ready for that level of physicality. In this offense, with a guy like DJ U, who I think is the ceiling, at least for him, as opposed to the quarterbacks they were working with last year, is massively higher. I think that's a massive get in. You take a look at this Oregon State team and the potential college football playoff appearance. I think it's certainly in play if you get five-star talent level DJ U in this offense. On the defensive side of the ball, Death Taxes in Oregon State developing guys on the defense side of the ball. When Jonathan Smith took this defense over, it was brutal. And now you look at last year, 328 yards per game for opposing offenses, number one in the Pac-12. You lose some guys in the secondary, Rajon Wright, Alex Austin, two phenomenal players, but this Oregon State defense is going to be solid. You take a look at what they have in the secondary. I'm extremely excited about what they bring. Kalen Oladapo is a phenomenal dude. Alton Julian is another guy that tore an ACL last year. From what I was reading in the spring practice notes 12 months ago, was going to be the guy, was going to be a phenomenal safety. So I think you have a defense that is going to be ball hawking. You look up front, they bring in a Wyoming transfer who's going to be able to get after the passer. I get you lose some production from like a guy like Omar Spates. That's going to hurt, but Calvin Hart coming in the transfer portal, I think, is also a big name to watch. He played very, very good for Illinois. This Oregon State defense is going to be good. And I think the question that you have for this Oregon State team is, how good can this offense be with a guy like DJ U who has all the talent in the world? There's a reason why he was a former five-star recruit out of high school. I think it's a perfect fit, and I think you could see this Oregon State offense take a massive step forward in 2023 to kind of build off an already very good campaign in 2022 where they won 10-3. Excuse me. Now, here's where I think it really gets special for Oregon State. You take a look at their schedule and who they're playing and where they're playing these teams. Their biggest games of the year, Washington and Utah probably, are going to be at home. That's a hard place to win in Corvallis, and I don't think it's crazy to say that Oregon State can be 10-0 going into their last two teams. They don't play USC, which is massive. I think they're another powerhouse in the Pac-12, but San Jose State, UC Davis, San Diego State, on the road at Washington State, that might be a trap game. Cameron Ward's a very solid quarterback, but if Oregon State's as good as I think they're going to be, you're probably winning that game. You get Utah at home, which I think is massive. You go on the road to California, who I think will be an improved California team. But again, if Oregon State plays to their ability, plays to how good I think they can be, I think Oregon State's winning that football game. You get UCLA at home. That's an interesting team, potentially a true freshman. You go on the road to Arizona, who Pac-12 is really good. Arizona's a solid offense, but probably should win that game. Probably should win Colorado. Should blow the doors off of Stanford at home. And then you might be favored in all of those games. And now you're talking about Washington, Oregon. You're 10-0. You're probably a top 10 team in the country, and you get Washington at home. That's a winnable game. Washington and Oregon are two of the best teams in the Pac-12. You're skipping out on USC. If you can pull that game off, it's not crazy to talk about Oregon State going on the road to a team they beat last year in the Oregon Ducks for a potential college football playoff appearance and a Pac-12 championship game appearance. Now, I will say, I think the Pac-12 might be the best conference in the country this year, just in terms of quarterback play. When you take a look at the quarterbacks that are in this conference and who are on their schedule, Cameron Ward, an extremely talented quarterback. Cam Rising, he's been doing it for a long time. Very, very good. Shedeur Sanders at Colorado, talented dude. Jaden DeLora at Arizona, talented guy. And then obviously Michael Penix and Bo Nix at the end of the year. Like, there are good quarterbacks in this Pac-12 conference. The Pac-12, I think, is a phenomenally good conference this year. But Oregon State is a team to watch in 2023. In my power ranks, I had them as the 12th overall team in the country. That being said, you take a look at their schedule and what they could be ranked by week 11 when they're playing Washington, by week 12 when they're playing Oregon. This could be a top 8, top 6, maybe even top 5 team when we're playing these two teams at the end of the year. This Oregon State team, it's not a sexy team. It's not going to get the buzz that USC and Oregon get, but this is a team that I think a lot of people are sleeping on in 2023. Again, wanted to wrap this one up, give my takes on what Oregon State could be in 2023. Again, appreciate the support you guys have shown. If you do enjoy the content, of course, subscribe to the channel. A team will be watching throughout this 2023 season, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.